Willis is having a bad time with the carburetor wanting to pop back through. If you rev it up slowly, it does good, but if you try to punch it, it backfires through the carburetor. So we know this balancer mark isn't right based on the time we had and listening to it by ear. So we're going to pull this one off. We're going to put this aftermarket one he had on his 455 on it. It's got the marks all the way around, whereas the one we're taking off just has the 0 mark. We're thinking the time is just way off. That's the reason it's doing that. There was a time I could time these by ear, but I haven't done that in so long. We want to make sure it's right anyway. We don't want to have to do it by ear. We want to make sure it's 100% correct. So, but when you rev it up, the timing does advance like it should. So I think the mechanical advance in the distributor is working just fine, because with the timing light, when he revs it up, you can see it advance. It advances about 22 degrees, I think. But yeah, we're going to make sure the timing's perfect. If that don't fix it, then we're going to dig into this carburetor and see if we can't figure out what's going on here. Willis about got her licked. We just unloosened the belts and they're just hanging out. Then we took the pulley off. It had 4 bolts in it. Then we're using that same puller that I use on Christopher's small block Chevy, except for, small block Chevy has the 3 bolts that are, spaced kind of like a triangle, whereas this one's got 4 spaced straight across, but that puller's got a straight across, so you just use 2 bolts with it. On this one, that pulls it right off. Easy peasy. So this thing's definitely spun. I got the keyways lined up, and the 0 mark should be right here. It's over here. You can see someone had to mark this before because it was off. So, I mean, what is that? That's a good what's that? That's 20 degrees. I mean, it's a good, see, they had this mark almost close. Let's see. So it's a good 20 degrees off, 25 degrees off. That's how far off it is. But I'll be honest with you, I think we had it about right when we put it by ear, but we'll put this one on, set the timing, and see what happens. All right, we got it on. So on this one right here, the keyway is way back up in the motor. So it was hard to line up the keyway with the balancer to the one in the motor. So what we did was we looked back up and just pretend the crank's here. Because I can't see up in there very good now, but I looked up inside the motor with the camera on the phone, and then I made a mark on the front of the crank with just a screwdriver, and then with this phone camera I lined that groove up with that mark, and we put it on there and it slid right on. So it lined up. I guess we got a little lucky there, but and then according to the old interwebs, that's got to be torqued to 160. Willis's torque wrench only goes to 160, but what I did was back there on the flex plate, I stuck this screwdriver in the teeth of the flex plate, and then this part hit the tunnel of the transmission. I just held it and he torqued it down up here, and that worked. Now we can put the pulleys on and then make sure they line up, and then put the alternator and power steering pump belt on, and now we'll be able to see where the timing really was. All right, we about got her licked, and gotta make sure our pulleys line up, and that looks very promising to me. Yeah, they're definitely lined up. Yep, looks good. I actually tried to take a picture of this one from the back of the pulley to that nut. If I can get to it. Yeah. And actually that other pulley almost went right up against that nut. So that picture didn't do me any good. And the reason it didn't is because this offset for this piece is way different. It's way shallower on that aftermarket pulley. There's not that much meat here. So the that gap from that back pulley to the balancer part right here was about that wide on the stock balancer. You can see on this aftermarket, it's right up against that back pulley. That's why that distance was different. From that nut, can I get my finger in here? From that nut to the back of the balancer was different. But yes, sir, them belts look perfectly straight to me. Oh, God. Yeah, just gotta tighten everything up. Should be done. Well, we put a timing light on it, and actually the timing was really, really close. I had by ear. It's still doing it, obviously. I don't know what's causing it. But, yeah, if you rev it smooth, it does just fine. But if you try to punch it, it just bogs out. Maybe it needs some adjustments on the accelerator cam or something to that effect, or I don't know. But we'll keep y'all updated, see if we can figure it out. Alright, we're out here messing with this thing again. We put a 28 squirter in it and it had a 31. We took the choke off because he don't use that anyway. Let's see what that does. It starts and runs just fine. Pump, 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 pump it up. Let's see if it does it. As you can see there, if you hit the throttle too hard, it just stumbles. The rockers are all set correctly. The rocker arms move up and down as they're supposed to, so there's nothing wrong with the cam. The mechanical advance, the vacuum advance work perfectly. The timing is set perfectly, so it's got to be something in the carburetor. We're going to try some different accelerator cam profiles, but first, I'm going to try a little bit higher number power valve. It's got a 6.5 in it. I think it needs an 8.5. So we'll get back with y'all when we get a 8.5 power valve. Well, I had a rebuild kit. My kit, Christopher has a kit to rebuild carburetors, and it didn't have an 8 or an 8.5 in there is what I think this needs. But I bought a rebuild kit, and it had a 10.5 in it. Power valve, so we're going to try a 10.5 power valve. He actually bought another 600 CFM carburetor. What'd you do with it?
What?
But it's squirting out the air bleeds. It's building up pressure. The vent tube must be clogged up. I don't know why it's doing that. Or maybe the check ball on the bottom. I don't know. But we're going to put this one back on there. And I just saw that 10.5 in this rebuild kit I brought with me. I didn't even know there was power valves in it. They had a 10.5 and a 6.5, so we're going to try that 10.5. The carburetor did have a 6.5 in it. So when we first put this 750 on there, when you rev it, it would actually pop back through the carburetor pretty bad. And we thought that was a wing condition, but driving it around, it would blacken the plugs. So we gave up on the 750 and tried a 650 that a buddy gave to him. So we put this 650 on, but it shot fuel out the air bleeds, and this vent was clogged up, and I cleaned it out. We're going to give her another go, see if this 650 works. See what it do. Yeah, fill the bowls up with the mechanical fuel pump. So this carburetor's been sitting a while, and obviously it's gotten dirty, as we could tell by the vent tube clogging up. But this one, it would rev so far, and then once you revved it so far, it was like it just completely ran out of gas.
You gonna put the brake line on?
That 650 did it even worse. We're gonna try this quadrojet. Come off Austin's car. We know this one works.
Well, it's supposed to.
Well, I know it works. We just took it off his car, and it was running good. You don't have to plug that. That's just air.
We need to plug that brake.
We do need to plug that one or hook it up.
Or hook it up.
Well, the quadrojet works like a champ. I love the sound of quadrojet makes, man. Well, in park neutral, it did work like a charm, but once we got it out on the road and tried to floor it from a standstill, it did the same thing. It popped right back through the carburetor. And at this point, I was thinking that maybe there was a vacuum leak on the intake or something to that effect. That 1.650 he had, he got it off a friend, but it's been sitting a very long time. I think a critter's got it. Well, we already know a critter's got up in there and made a mess because the vent tube was clogged up. But maybe something happened to that 750. Maybe it just got a bunch of trash. I don't know. When the 455 blowed up, and then I'm gonna rebuild that 750. That's his 750. And this 650, it's just a friend's. He said it was rebuilt, but it's been sitting forever. It was dirty in there. I took the bowls off and cleaned it out, but. So this is some of the aftermath from where the 455 blew up. All these chunks and oil and water got in the intake, and also on the bottom of the carburetor. And TJ and Willis both said, "Marshall, don't you think that carburetor needs rebuilt?" And I was like, I probably didn't get up in there. I was wrong. All right, we broke down and rebuilt the carburetor. I should have made a video of that, but basically all I did was I took it apart, completely apart, and I soaked it, each piece, in a mixture of muriatic acid. 30% muriatic acid you can get from the pool cleaning section of the hardware store. And 30% muriatic acid, 70% water. The only bad thing is, I didn't clean them. I just sprayed carburetor cleaner in the fuel bowl. You'll see it takes away the shininess. It dulls the color, but we don't care about that. So when we initially started with this thing, you'd rev it and it'd blow through, it'd backfire through the carburetor. But now, that's perfect. But what was I gonna say? I guess all that stuff that was down in the intake from where the 455 blew up got in the carburetor somehow, and it just needed a good cleaning. Look what we got here. Works good now. Glad we figured that out. We was fighting a losing battle because, I don't know, you take the plugs out and they were black as could be. We left the same jets, the same power valves, same everything in it, and rebuilt the carburetor, and now it's too lean. The plugs are clean. So we just put a little more jet in it. We're almost back to the factory. What is the factory jet on those?
72, we are back to factory.
Yeah, back to factory.
But
we got the power valves at 10.5, and they come from Holly with a 6.5 in them. But man, it works great now. It just needed a cleaning, I guess, when the 455 blew up, which I'll show a picture of all the stuff in the intake here. But I guess some of it got in the carburetor and it just needs clean. We just dipped it in 30% muriatic acid, 70% water for about 5 to 10 minutes. I think I did the big parts, the base plate and the big part. I forgot what it's called. For 10 minutes, and then we did the metering block for 5 minutes. Put it back together with all new seals and accelerator pump diaphragm and the little flapper thing inside of there, and all new gaskets, and it works like a champ now. I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Yeah.
Willis is ready. Now if we can just get that Trans Am to work right.
Yeah, we gotta get that fixed.
I ordered some parts for the fuel pressure.
Did you think to order that screw for that? Probably didn't, did you?
I wonder if it comes with a screw. Willis lost his accelerator cam screw. It had the green one on it. The orange one seems to work better. But yeah, I think you can get those from the hardware store. They just got to be the tapered screws. But anyway, that'll do it for that. We finally got his fixed and running right. Now we just got to get the Trans Am running right and do some races.
We're good to go. I changed, put 72 jets in it, test drove it. It's running better than it ever has. So.
What's the fastest it ever run with the 350?
1563.
1563.
We're gonna try to beat that today.
Alright, how's it going to do on its burnout and its first time down the track with the 350 back in it? It's 100% stock 350. Performer RPM intake and a 750 vacuum secondary. On a street tire. It did a good burnout. So it's working good, obviously, because he's already beat the fastest time he ever had with that 350. He's had that 350 in there before. He had the 455 built and they put the 455 in there and then it blew up, so they put the 350 back in. But y'all have a good one. So as y'all had heard him say, the fastest it ever run was 1563 with the Pontiac 350 in it. And that was actually in good air when he had done that. Not before, he had a 650 carburetor, I believe, that he had on it that he wound up giving away. But with the 750 carburetor that we finally got to work right, that just needed rebuilt, it ran a 1555 at 2200 DA, which this drag times DA calculator has always been dead on for me on motor. It says it should run a 1515. And the DA does in 0 DA, and the DA does get in the spring and fall, does get to 0 and even negative sometimes here at Kentucky Dragway. But we haven't even really dialed it in. We could probably take this thing and fool with the timing a little bit and see how much more timing it likes. I think it's at 36 degrees, wide open throttle. And then we could mess with the jets a little and maybe even make it a little bit faster. But, you know, 3,800-pound car, a 50-something-year-old Pontiac 350 stock with just a Performer RPM and 750 Holley vacuum secondaries carburetor. I don't think that's too bad.